Hey there, this is Denny with MemberHost. I wanted to talk briefly about backend server speed and performance and effective ways to measure this. This is one of the primary benefits that we deliver at MemberHost. It's not always clear to people sometimes, like what's the best way, other than just kind of clicking around and feeling how it feels on the back end. Like, how do we actually look at that and measure that objectively? Also, a common misconception is that we can just drop this into GTmetrix or page speed tools or something like that, and let's just run a comparison between the two sites. That's a lot of people's first instinct, and this is not something that we would ignore ultimately in a production site, but the reality is usually you have a production site that's optimized to the hilt. It's running Cloudflare, some type of CDN. All the front-end assets are optimized and delivering from the closest edge node. And then you're comparing that to a staging site with maybe page caching on, things like that, but we have no CDN and we're not running the same performance optimizations as a result. And so you'll see slower time to first byte or full page render and things like that. And I think the reality is, at the end of the day, if you were to switch everything over, when you get everything configured properly on MemberHost, you're going to have all those same optimizations in place. You just don't always have them on day one as you're doing the test here. So, and then that's not to mention the fact that just testing the homepage or testing the front end page load isn't really doing service to the improvements that you're going to see whenever you get into looking at dynamic actions like adding things to cart and visiting membership pages and going through courses, things of that nature that are all unique to the user. They're all hitting PHP and incurring some cost on the back end with regard to CPU performance. And so I want to look at that a little bit here. We've got two sites that are the same. One's running on DigitalOcean, no disrespect to them. That's just what I had access to. The other's running on MemberHost. And we are, other than the stack is slightly different, this DigitalOcean droplet is running Nginx. We run Lightspeed at MemberHost. Performance-wise, those are close. There's some optimizations in Lightspeed that we like, but we wouldn't expect a major difference from that. But just in full transparency, there is a difference there. But we're using Redis object caching on both sites, and they're both just like a blank install of WordPress. The only thing we've done is add a activity simulator. It's just a little plugin that I wrote that allows us to kind of generate some synthetic results so that we can kind of see how things are performing. If you wanted to run some synthetic results yourself, I would recommend something like this hosting benchmark tool. It's really great for comparing server performance, but at the end of the day, those numbers probably don't mean anything to you other than to say one is bigger than the other. They don't really give you a feel for how the actual speed of the site is going to be impacted, and that's what I want to talk about now. So what I would recommend installing on both sites that you want to test is Query Monitor. You've probably heard of this tool. And the reason I like this is because it's giving us a breakdown of how much does the overall page generation time take, and how much of that is database queries versus HTTP calls, remote calls out to licensing servers, things like that. And then how much, subtract those, and that's how much of that is really like the raw processing time. So just to orient you around what you're seeing here a little bit, this first number is the page generation time. This is the memory usage. We're looking at now the database queries that were took to run, and the raw number of queries that were run on that. So if I hit the dashboard on this one, I should see something similar. It's been a minute since I've refreshed this page, so it may have done a few more calls out to things, but you can see we have our page generation time and then our queries. If these are like within an order of magnitude of each other, the number of queries, I would consider that kind of a valid comparison, assuming you're on the same page doing kind of the same things. Occasionally you'll see one or the other will have way more. This is probably because of something checking in the back end, licensing checks, things like that. Could also be if a plugin were to kind of disable some functionality because it detects it's on the staging site. Maybe it doesn't run the full set of functionality that would include more hooks and filters and queries and whatnot. So I guess the rule of thumb is if you're visiting the same functionality in both and you see similar numbers of queries, then these are probably numbers you can rely on as far as an accurate comparison of, hey, this is apples to apples, for lack of a better term. So let's hit this activity simulator and just see what this looks like real quick. These are both configured to run the same simulation. and we'll be able to see here in a second. To be honest, I have no idea what takes so long on this droplet, but we're running, we actually ran more queries here inside of the member host site and took it's an order of magnitude quicker on the member host site as well. You see 0.5 seconds or 0.56 compared to 7.58. So first thing I would look at here is make sure there aren't HTTP calls, because those can slow things down. We see cases where a remote server from PayPal or LearnDash or whoever isn't responding as quickly as we would want, and we don't have either of those here. So that's not influencing the test at all. The only thing we're seeing is database queries, and let's just look at some timings here. Yeah, we've got almost 6 seconds of database queries over here, and we've got under 1/10 of a second on the member host side. So again, I'm not trying to give you any like real takeaways on the actual speed of it. Again, it's a synthetic test, so I'm not trying to prove the performance here, but I'm just trying to show you that there is, where's the difference at? There's a difference there in the database. If you look at the overview here, again, it would show you what the total page generation time kind of gives you a summary of all these things. So these are the things I would look at as far as objective numbers when I'm browsing around the back end and looking at things. I don't think for some reason I'm not getting HTTP calls. That'll usually kick up whenever you hit. I wonder if that may be in Query Monitor for some reason. Kind of new version of WordPress, maybe something has changed, but usually that'll show something on the dashboard or on the plugins page. Yeah, but this is kind of a good way to see what are our numbers looking like between the two servers when we know we're kind of running the same stack of things, and we're looking at actual backend performance, so that we know that our checkouts, that our course pages, that all these things, and you can browse the front end too if you have. I don't have anything on this site to show, but you can actually go out and look through some of those functionalities and see like what kind of speed difference would we see for a real visit. Because the simulations, that's great, that's faster, but like I don't really know what that means in the context of my user experiencing the site. So yeah, hopefully this is helpful to kind of get an idea of those things. If you have further questions, explanation of anything I've covered here, or further questions about your specific scenario or your workload, I'm happy to answer those anytime. Or connect with one of my teammates. I'm sure they'd be happy to help as well. Thanks for your time, and we will talk to you soon.